Welcome to Forward with NACCE, Inspiring Entrepreneurial Action, a podcast that shares the stories of everyday entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial leaders, and the communities that support us. We hope that this diverse collection of stories brings you inspiration, inspires you to take action, and ignites entrepreneurship in your community as we make our way forward together.
Welcome to this episode of Forward with NACCE. We are so excited to welcome some leaders, not only from the automotive industry, but we have higher education leaders who've served in various roles around the world. We're recording this right before the national conference put on by the American Association for Community Colleges, the Workforce Development Institute. So our first speaker is actually going to be joining us in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, where we will have a chance to have a panel conversation in front of many attendees at WDI. So it's my pleasure to begin the conversation and welcome Chris Lewis to the program. And Chris, I'd love for you to talk about your background. You have such an interesting background in corporate leadership and educational leadership. So tell us a little bit about your background. And you actually brought two other leaders with you today that we're going to hear some examples of some innovative work that they're doing in the automotive industry.
Dr. Corbin, thank you so much for having me and having our guests as well. Yes, it's really exciting just to talk about some of the things that we're doing, as you and I have talked about as well. Just really the role that community colleges should be playing in regards to entrepreneurial development. My background is very diverse. I actually come bringing on many years of experience working with a company called Motion Industries on the private sector side, where I was involved with several things. But my last role and responsibility was heading up their supply diversity program. With that, I worked very closely with the National Minority Supply Development Council, whose focus since 1972 has been regarding certification and really creating opportunities in multiple industries for minority businesses. One of those industries that has been a really prominent leader has been the automotive industry. For many years, it was Ford, GM, and Chrysler, the big three out of Detroit, that really were very engaged with trying to create opportunities in their supply chain for minority and women-owned companies. I served as the board chairman for many years, which put me on the board of directors for NMSDC. But then I also struck out and owned the business. We worked with a lot of things around sustainability. We were really looking around building solutions, working with products, not only in the automotive industry, but also providing services in education in other areas. And after moving from that, I became the president and CEO for the Alabama chapter of NMSDC, where my relationship with our guests began at that time. What I did, because Alabama, of course, was very heavy in automotive manufacturing with Mercedes and Honda and Toyota and Hyundai and many of the other tier one suppliers, we were working not just in automotive, but automotive had such a strong presence to create opportunities to really advance and elevate, again, vendors of color. So we were working with those individuals. And one of the things that I did was look at what do we need to do to bring the resource agencies together that would be able to better support the infrastructure of these businesses so they could grow their capacity. With that, I began to make a relationship and then was introduced to Scot Sharland with AIAG. And they will share with you what they're doing as far as the resources they provide to not only the automotive industry, but other agencies as well. But because of my experience in those areas, is the reason I was recruited to come into education, was to work with the Manufacturer Extension Partnership, which was a part of the Alabama Community College system, to bring that experience of working with those suppliers to look at how do we grow their capacity. In doing that, I became, again, an interim president at J.F. Drake State Community College up in Huntsville. I worked still very closely with AIAG as we were looking at ways to expand the capacities for our minority businesses, was able to co-found, again, a supplier diversity conference where we really looked at automotive industry and also the aviation industry in ways that we could take, again, the synergy that exists between those two industries to diversify business opportunities for minority business to grow their capacity. At that time, Scott and I had some conversations because of some things that AIAG had led in Detroit with Wayne State, with the creation of a supply chain management program that focused on diversity. We were very fortunate to have the support of AIAG to fund a white paper in collaboration with Alabama A&M University to really look at establishing a supply chain program that would service the Southeast to really begin to train and develop, again, minority, women-owned individuals who wanted to be in that space so that we could give them the tools that they need, in essence, to grow their capacity. Now, what was the win for education? We felt as an HBCU, as we helped to create opportunities from an entrepreneurial standpoint for individuals to, number one, grow their capacity in these strong industries. We know that women and minority-owned companies normally hire individuals who look like them. So as an HBCU and as a community college, it was a way for us to create opportunities for our students to be able to join the workforce pipeline in some high wage, high demand occupations that we knew were cutting edge. Now, one of our concerns, and I'm going to introduce my guest, was looking at the rapid change that's happening today in the automotive industry around the electric vehicle. We knew that it was not an issue about being a supplier in one industry or the other. For them to be able to sustain themselves long-term, they need to be able to do business in both. And I'm going to turn it over to Scott, Sharland, and Lane Ware with AIAG to tell a little bit more about what they do. But more importantly, I would love for them to share a little bit more about the revolution that's happening today in the automotive industry around the electric vehicle and the role that community college should be playing based on what they have established on the academic side with some of their academic partners. Scott?
Thank you, Chris, and it's my distinct privilege and pleasure to be with you here today. I'll just give you a perspective from the Automotive Vertical and how we started on this journey, as Chris just nobly described. We came to the realization very quickly that we were in the middle of a perfect storm. And that was before COVID, I might add, and the great subsequent resignation. That storm looked like this. 10,000 people turn 65 every day and are retiring. These incredibly talented men and women are walking out the door with 20, 30, 40 years of experience. And quite openly, we do not have robust institutional knowledge transfer processes in place. Do not. The second part is the demise of the defined benefit plan. There is no more pension, so people are not hanging around for 10 years to get vested and get the payoff further down the road in their career. They're taking their 401ks and they're leaving. So it used to be a focus on absenteeism. Now it's presenteeism. How do we keep those folks that we have? And the last frustration has been the rapid pace of development and the body of knowledge in the world. There's an old book by Buckminster Fuller from the early 80s that talks about a knowledge doubling curve. Around World War II, it was every 20 years. Now the suggestion is with the Internet of Things, it's every 13 months, and that curve is compressing. Where we saw some frustration in our outreach with academia per se was this publish or perish kind of a paradigm where we looked every 4 to 5 years that was great then. Unfortunately, you may be missing two doubling curves, if you will, of this tremendous democratization of knowledge that the internet has brought us. So our take was we can't hire kids out of school and relearn them and re-educate them because they're out of sync and out of step with the skill sets that we need, with a particular emphasis on diversity students, which has been the bane of our existence anyway. We've done not as good a job as we should have done. So our take and our reach to academia was a holistic, multi-level approach, starting with junior colleges. We knew that there are our key target segments were not just young kids transitioning from the junior college to undergrad to graduate, but this tremendous bank of folks who are going to be repurposed, continuing adult education, that the JUCOs were ground zero in that target-rich environment for us to interface and address and engage. So we've done very simply for all of you guys out there, if they're interested in automotive careers in environmental science, social governance, quality, or supply chain management, AIG.org, you can go online for free to anyone in language, basic knowledge assessments that you or your students will be able to take a look at your leisure and take, quite frankly, to give you the transfer of the basic information and concepts that we think are important for future careers in automotive. By the way, online, free, in language. The only thing we do is there is some academic tension built in. It's a time test. But it's not a certification. It's like, we want you to understand these basic concepts. We want you to have this knowledge. Start here. And then whether you train them or I train them or they're self-taught, we can communicate, the basic concepts and understand that a better understanding of the basic tools they'll need to be successful in their first automotive assignment in a brave new world.
Could they be students of various ages? Are you looking at, traditional college students 18 to 21, or could they be career changers? Could they be women? I know you had mentioned about the diversification. So obviously it'd be wonderful to get people of color, but maybe talk about that. And can you give us an example of an experience of somebody takes this assessment, they get on the website, then what do? Do they get connected with one of your local chapters, or?
What we're trying to do is we have about 4,500 member companies ranging from Toyota, Ford, GM, right down to Tier X, to very, very small to medium-sized companies. We're not in the HR business per se. My job is to basic knowledge transfer. So how do I arm you or provide you access, pervasive access in this case, at low to no cost, with what you're going to need, what you're going to focus on, help you get organized and focused on what's really important and what prospective employers will want you to be able to contribute to their business. So that's where we're starting. And that's what this is. It's just like we could open the door, and as I said, it's for prospective employees of any shape, age, form, etc. We need all the help we can get in the automotive sector right now. And whether it's folks being repurposed into new assignments who have been in business or in a different industry and are looking for opportunities in automotive, or whether the young folks coming up saying, hey, I want to feel my way through or get more focused at a junior college before I make a formal commitment at an undergraduate or perhaps moving forward to a higher level of certification or degree. I want to test the water here and see if I really like this before I just get a generic degree and then figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life, so to speak. The reason I say that is if we could get folks hand raisers or interested in what we do early on, we can default into a higher level of retention and get out of that 401k trap I described a little bit ago.
Well, and that may not exist anymore, right? We hear about the gig economy. We know with the Great Resignation, especially with women, many have children. That just doesn't work. So what other kinds of benefits? And before we tape this episode, we had a conversation about just the mentoring and asking questions. So Chris, I don't know if you want to introduce us also to the other guests that you brought with you who can sort of illuminate some of the other opportunities for people that maybe hadn't considered a career like this. Maybe they hadn't considered community college before. What might be in store for them that could really change their life and open up better pathways.
Yes, I know, and Lane works very closely with Scot's team and is heading up some areas of academia that he can share of what he's doing and some of the successes that he's seen in some of the work that he's done. And Lane brings an extraordinary amount of experience from the automotive side, from working for Ford. I think before child labor laws were an issue. But he'll share a little bit more about his experience and talk a little bit about the role that he's playing in working on the academic side and how that can maybe tie into what we're doing here at our community colleges.
Well, thank you for having me on. And again, my name is Ware, and I'm just glad to be with you today. Hopefully I can impart some of the things I've learned over time to assist this new generation to go forward in their potential careers. I have the luxury of having been around for some time and have watched this business evolve from moving at a snail's pace to a hyperspeed. And I've had to migrate along with it. And in a previous conversation I had with Chris, I told him, I says, we're not watching evolution. We're participating in a revolution. Things are moving that fast in this business. And along with that, the challenges of labor has got to keep pace. And right now, we're not winning that battle. However, there are certain great things going on that are going to help close that gap, and working with people like yourselves will help bridge that. We've done several things at AIG, recognizing that there is this knowledge gap, and that's one of my primary challenges that Scot has challenged me with. And having witnessed it all of my career, I have a pretty good idea of some of the things that we need to get started on. My predecessor started a program called GapScan. And this was having to work with supply chain and purchasing in the automotive sphere. before I go too far, I want to just include that we branched out beyond just automotive. We're more so into mobility now as well. And we're focused in aerospace, as Chris alluded to a little bit earlier. We work with several aerospace companies, some that you know very well, like Boeing. So we've been able to spread our wings a little bit in order to share what we have in our parallels. We have three primary parallels of supply chain quality, corporate responsibility, and so forth. And with those, we're able to educate the community that is out there that's coming up through the different educational levels. Community college is very important to us because it's a feeder into the university level. Now, one of the programs that I run is with Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. And Wayne State has a feeder system from various community colleges. And we actually have what we call a 23-week program in purchasing and supply chain, where we have industry specialists to come in weekly in a winter session and a fall session. And at the end, participants will receive a certificate from Wayne State. So it is an accredited program that they can learn a lot of valuable information from that they can apply immediately in their day-to-day life. As part of that, we have a few scholarship awardees from AIAG to participate from the university level as well as from the community college level. Now, quite honestly, a lot of things that are spoken and talked about during these particular classes are somewhat above their head. However, by them being in the classroom environment, as well as with those industry professionals, the professionals recognize that and they see these individuals as their future as well. So they help pull along these individuals throughout this 23-week course. And by the end of it, they now have a good friend. They have other companies to network with. More importantly, the networking is extremely important. And we actually see where these students, when they get back into their respective environments, they're achieving much better than what they were prior to, and sometimes out-achieving some of their classmates that were well above them in the beginning.
Which is really the power of mentoring. And, you know, you're changing lives. That one things I've learned about community colleges is really the impact of first generation students. And some of what you're probably entering into is, you know, lives where families maybe didn't have the chance to go to a technical college or go to a community college. I should add too, I'm really impressed with a lot of the work and the foresight that you have. As a young person, I grew up in Northeastern Ohio, so not far from Chrysler plant. And it was an interesting time during those days because, you know, early, 90s and so forth, mid 90s, they were talking about, the tire companies, Michelin, they were all moving into the South. And it was like this sea change of things that were coming. And sometimes you would see community organizations maybe not embrace the change or plan so much for the changes. But I see just on this call, Chris, understanding about your leadership in a variety of different ways, and really seeing the value of partnership and moving things forward. And I know that is a theme of this year's Workforce Development Institute in Jacksonville. And as we sort of look at models around the country and reimagine, automation, we could have a whole other episode on, self-driving cars and, what's happening. But I think you all have done just a beautiful job in talking about the problems, but also talking about the opportunities. And I think where that leaves us is really thinking about how might we take some of these challenges and problems and turn them into opportunities, and what the work that the three of you and many others are doing around equity. So I'd like to just end with a short question for each of you to respond to as we wrap up. Tell us a little bit about how entrepreneurial mindset or innovation plays a role in your daily life, because you've got audacious goals, you've got, big territories to cover. How do you do that as a leader in your own work, is cultivate that spirit of, curiosity and openness and trying new things? So Chris, maybe we'll start with you and then we can hear from our other two guests as we conclude our conversation.
Well, Dr. Corbin, I would answer the question from my end, is that as an African-American, first and foremost, in understanding the importance of creating the financial institutions that can help uplift communities who look like me. It is not going to happen simply from someone going to work. It has to happen from entrepreneurship. One of the reasons that I have been so involved is that I realize is that there has to be some entrepreneurs who are willing to not only create some lasting institutions, but also to bring them back to our community. Because as we said earlier, minorities and women-owned businesses are more apt to hire individuals who look like them. Education is an industry that it is far too common that the majority of individuals who are in leadership roles simply it's not enough that look like me. And so we have to be able to create pillars of opportunity. Now, one of the things that I will real quickly state, because I think that we didn't really address, because there are probably people who are looking at this, who are still asking the question, who is AIG? The reason that I got involved with them, because I realized, again, a decade ago, which says a lot about the three of my two guests and myself as we've aged. AIG, when I first got involved with them, I realized that they actually produced a quality manual for 9 of the automotive OEMs. And so at Motion Industry, we were, of course, the world's largest maintenance, repair, and operation provider in the country. But anytime you really start talking about quality, it will always lead us back to AIG, because they are really the preeminent organization that focuses on quality for the automotive industry. And now they're including the aviation industry and others. And so really that's what they're grounded in, the quality, lean, continuous improvement, quality side of automotive. Now, one of the things that I think when we talk about, and we would really be remiss if we don't talk about this as far as entrepreneur opportunities, the electric vehicle. As a community college, if you're not putting your arms around what's happening with the electric vehicle, then you're doing a disservice to your institution. Because today, because of Lang and Scott, they asked me to review the keynote that was done by the CEO of GM, Mary Barra, earlier this month. And one of the things that she shared, which was just really eye-opening to me, GM is, of course, in a war of who's going to be first with Ford right now. But that's really the automotive industry. GM alone they're planning to have 30 new electric vehicle motor lines that will hit the ground in 2025, which means they're building them in. In addition to that, by 2040, which was something that was really eye-opening, they already have the sign-on of FedEx. FedEx is going to completely replace their entire fleet of over 200,000 commercial vehicles that they will have fully implemented by 2040. You look at what they're doing right now at Walmart, where they're going to now purchase their own fleet that will be driven by their own people to do home deliveries. If you look at everything that's happening with Fuse and other companies, it is, as Lang alluded to, this is not an evolution, this is a revolution. And right now, the challenge that we're going to have is the realization of the reduction in the supply base based on the move to the electric vehicle. And so now many of our individuals, we talk about the great resignation, but we also talk about the climate surveys across education and other places where people are looking to do something different. They're going to move into these opportunities. And what are we doing to prepare them for the change that is on the horizon? It's here. So what are we doing as a community college to make sure that we're keeping our ears to the ground and we're providing and training and articulating these opportunities to our students so that they can not only get a job, but they can learn the skills that are needed to become the entrepreneurs to take this talent back into their respective communities to now own, employ, and create the financial independence that we are depending on them to do as a community leader. And so with that, that's my passion for around what we're doing. We're looking at ways at Ames right now. But how do we infuse that? Because again, we know that change is on the horizon. The oil and gas industry here is changing. Again, the way people eat is changing, which is going to change when we deal with, again, raising cattle and different things. Change is here. We have to change with that. And a part of that has to include our focus on creating entrepreneurial opportunities and information for our students.
Indeed, that is so well said. Lane, do you want to go next?
Sure, why not? Overall, for me, the entrepreneurial skill that I thought about when Chris was talking and the challenge that you put out there and the question itself, as Scott knows, because I work for him, I'm very big on people. And with that, I'm big on leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get from A to B without leadership. One of my primary focuses right now, and I have known leaders at the top of these automotive houses myself personally. I used to work for them. And they've always lived by providing the tools for those that work for them and letting them get their job done. And that comes through true leadership. And currently, I'm actually developing a program for the next generation of corporate leaders. And we will be bringing those people in shortly with a very challenging program. And with that, that element of the leadership is what's going to take our next generation of individuals from all levels and raise them up. As Chris alluded to, the General Motors presentation by Mary Barra was such enthusiastic of a presentation. It just really emphasized there's a huge opportunity here for a lot of individuals if they want to be involved. But they have got to get on board with those leaders, and those leaders will lead them to the areas of expertise as well as employment that they're looking for in the long term. So with that, I don't want to embellish any further upon what we've already talked about, but that leadership element is going to take us to the next level.
Well, I think that's really important. And here on Forward with NACCE, we'd love to learn more about that program when you get it together. And Scott, I think you're a great example, all three of you really, but of sort of those leadership qualities, the relentless passion that we hear from all of you, and that ability to see into the future. So why don't you close us out with a thought that you have in terms of entrepreneurial mindset and how you incorporate that into your day?
Sure. Let me help you with the value of entrepreneurial thinking. First and foremost, not just in the mobility business, but any vertical, the paradigm has shifted forever. It used to be the big eat the small. Now the fast eat the slow. Repeat that, the fast eat the slow. How else do you reconcile the incredible market valuation of these startup companies? Even companies that don't manufacture anything, billions and billions of dollars of value. So I'm always, there's a website called despair.com that takes a look at making goofs on motivational posters. My favorite one says tradition. This is a tag of the top line. It's a picture of the running of the bulls through Pamplona, Spain, for all of you Hemingway fans. The tagline is, just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. So the real key for the entrepreneurial thinking is we have to challenge the logic. Understanding the rate of technology evolution, the speed required to maintain or get competitive advantage means you don't have the luxury of doing it the same old way we used to do it. I can't tell you any new situation you find yourself in, you're learning a business process and you may challenge it. Why are we doing it that way? I said, well, because we've always done it that way. Again, that doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. So where we start with every student that we have with an entrepreneurial journey is you have to challenge the logic. Ask the question, why are we doing it this way? And is there a better way we can do it to drive more efficiency, effectiveness, and better user experience for any of our customers anywhere? So I think you'll see a growing premium on thinking out of the box, challenging the logic at any level of engagement you are in industry, because that's what it's going to take for us to radically pivot and meet these new challenges that are coming at us, probably at the speed of light, if not faster.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lot to remember. And I'm going to think about that, because I do think what we try to do here, the culture of NACCE, is to try to get rid of things that are unimportant. They stray us from our mission. They don't impact our results. So I appreciate the three of you so much. Chris, I can't wait to meet you in person in Jacksonville. And we are going to put out a little clip of this interview and then share it more broadly with our listeners around the world. So I wish all of you a good day, much continued great success, and let's keep the conversation going. It's exciting to think about where the automotive industry is headed and how you all are going to help guide it to an even greater plane. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you will continue to explore the many ways to define entrepreneurship with NACCE as we celebrate opportunity, failing forward, and success, learning from one another along the way. Subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and follow at NACCE on social media and learn more about us at nacce.com/podcast. Stay tuned for a new episode each week. We look forward to making our way forward together with you. Have you heard about our latest book, Impact Ed: How Community College Entrepreneurship Creates Equity and Prosperity? This is our roadmap for building back better in 50 states and globally. In each chapter, we share the inspiring stories of everyday entrepreneurs and explain how community colleges play a crucial role in their success. Visit us at nacce.com/impacted to order your copy now and join us in this work.
Are you curious about what's coming up next in the NACCE community? Join us on the second Wednesday of every month at 12 p.m. Eastern to set yourself up to be productive and impactful with NACCE by your side. We'll share about events, ways to get involved, and we'll have an open conversation featuring questions you're asking or problems you're facing. So join us on the second Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for Up Next with NACCE. More information at nacce.com/upnext.